Hello, this is Dave Sugarbaker. Today is August 17th, 2025, and I have a sermon on perseverance from Paul's letter to the Hebrews, chapter 12. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and the sin that clings so closely, and let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, who, for the sake of the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, disregarding its shame, and has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of God. So that's Paul. If I had not become a minister, I would have been an English teacher. And as such, I notice writing styles. And within the library that we call the Bible, I think that Isaiah in the Old Testament and Luke in the New Testament are among the best writers. Now, Paul has his shining moments, but he's a master at writing really long, dense sentences. If you would like not to listen to the sermon, you might use this time to try to diagram the sentence structure of the reading from Paul's letter to the Hebrews. It's Hebrews 12, verses 1 and 2. It is one sentence, and it is 81 words long. Now, actually, it might be easier to listen to the sermon because my sentences don't usually run to more than 20 words. In my third year of graduate school, the dean came to me and asked if I would like to apply for an Oddfellows scholarship. Now, I knew several Oddfellows. After all, this was Berkeley in the 1960s. But I didn't know what Oddfellows would be doing that would lead to me getting a scholarship for my last year of graduate school. I learned that the scholarship came with a stipulation, and the stipulation was that I would promise that after graduation, I would spend at least 2 years as a minister, preferably in a local church setting. And after some consideration, I decided that I could at least put my toe in the water. I would try ministry for 2 years. So now it's at least 4.5 decades or 45 years later, and I'm still in ministry. I have persevered. Perseverance is defined as continued effort to do or achieve something, even when it is difficult or it takes a long time. In the reading, we have a great image of being surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. The picture is of us getting ready for the race, taking off our warm-ups, stretching. We're aware of the great cloud of witnesses, that is, spectators in the stands. Now, there are some things we should know to appreciate the picture Paul paints for us. By 490 BC, the Persians, that is modern-day Iran, had expanded all the way to the Mediterranean, and they were ready to expand into Europe. They landed a large army in Greece near Athens, on the plains of Marathon. Now, the Athenians knew that they were not up to taking on the Persians all by themselves. So they sent a messenger named Philippides, a professional messenger, a runner, to Sparta to ask the Spartans for military help. Now, this would be a good time to tell a joke about ancient Greek names. A man goes into a Greek tailor shop, ancient Greek tailor shop, and his garment is in shreds, and it looks like he's been in a battle, and maybe he was. The tailor says, "Euripides?" And the man with the torn garment says, "Yeah, Eumenides?" So Philippides sets off for Sparta 140 miles away. It took him 2 days over rugged mountainous terrain to get there. 2 days, 140 miles, 70 miles a day. The Spartans, when they got the message, said yes and no at the same time. Yes, they would be glad to help to repel the Persians, but their religion would delay them until the next full moon before they could help in any way. Sounds like modern politics. In any case, Philippides runs back to the Athenian army with the bad news. So that's 140 miles to Sparta and then 140 miles back to the Athenian army. The Athenian army was outnumbered 4-1, but they planned and they launched a surprise attack, which on the surface appeared to be suicidal. But at day's end, over 6,400 Persians had been killed on the field of battle, while only 192 Athenians had been killed. The surviving Persians fled in a panic to the sea to their boats and headed south toward Athens, where they hoped to attack the city before the Athenian army could reassemble there. Philippides was again called on to run to Athens, 26 miles away, to carry the news of the victory and to warn the Athenians about the approaching Persian ships. Despite his fatigue after his recent 280-mile run to Sparta and back, and having fought all morning in heavy armor with the rest of the Athenians against the Persians, Philippides rose to the challenge. He persevered. Pushing himself past the limits of human endurance, he reached Athens in 3 hours and delivered his message and then died from exhaustion. It's from this story about Philippides that we get the term marathon, and we get the distance of a marathon, which is 26 miles. That's the distance from the plains of Marathon to Athens. It's also a great story and a picture of perseverance. Roughly a century later, Alexander led Greek armies to overrun the whole Persian Empire, from Afghanistan and Iran to Egypt and Saudi Arabia. In the Greek world, and later in the Roman world, athletic games were played in large stadia with thousands of onlookers. That's your great cloud of witnesses. So Paul and the earliest Christians were aware of these kinds of sporting events. Archaeology shows that soccer and field hockey and cricket, imagine that, cricket, were all played in Greco-Roman amphitheaters 200 years before the time of Jesus. In any case, Paul's point gets through, especially since we are surrounded by a crowd of faithful former generations. We're going to run this race as well as we can. Stripped down and rid of encumbrances, we will run the race focused on the goal, to the finish line, which is Jesus, who is the beginning and the end of our faith. So life is really a foot race? Sometimes it feels like it. The trouble is, there's no such thing as practice. We don't get any do-overs. We have to just get off that starting line, that is the present moment, and run the race that is set before us. So who set the race before us? Well, in one sense, God gives us the good gift of life. But life presents us with challenges all the time. And sometimes the challenge is to get up and get going. Sometimes the challenge is to persevere in the face of obstacles. Sometimes the challenge is illness, injury, and pain. But the race is still there before us. A family member of one of our members of the congregation at West Union has Parkinson's, and he was set to have an operation to insert electrodes in his brain that would calm the Parkinson's tremors. And at the last minute, the medical people backed away from the surgery because of his blood pressure. What a terrible development. It's hard to imagine first the prospect of something that would calm the tremors and boost his quality of life, only to have that option suddenly taken away. But I think he will persevere. He will try his best to run the race. He will work to get his blood pressure down and convince the docs that he's a good risk for the surgery. It seems to me the greatest failure would be not to try. And given the example of the lives of those who've gone before us, we're inspired to run well, to do as much as we can. We don't live alone in this world. We're surrounded by the past, which can and does shape us. And we have family and friends in the present who love us. And we're given a future that begins now. Now we can choose to drag along our yes buts, our if onlys, and our shoulda, coulda, wouldas. They're all just going to weigh us down and distract us from the race. Or we can shuck off all those encumbrances that would slow us down and keep our eyes instead on the prize. God's hands are tied if we fail to persevere. If we don't help ourselves, God can't help us. Therefore, Paul says, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and the sin that clings so closely, and let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, who, for the sake of the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, disregarding its shame, and has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of God. Now, God bless you, and take care of yourself. Persevere. And if you find value in this, I'd appreciate it if you pass it along. And I'll see you soon. Thanks.